Call to order the 191st meeting of the New York City Equal Employment Practices
I'm not that old.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the
I
October 30th?
move to approve the minutes of
meetings?
October 30th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved. All right, Sharice?
Report on the status of audits. We've completed discrimination complaint and investigation procedure audits for 2 agencies that require a vote, final determination. That's the Administration for Children's Services and the Department of Consumer Affairs.
I move that we adopt resolution 2014/067 and resolution 2014/866.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved.
Okay.
There's one other audit that remains in progress this year. That's the Manhattan Borough President's Office. Well, 2 others, the Manhattan Borough President's Office and the Department of Cultural Affairs. Those were started this year and we expected to complete them this year, but due to delays with the agencies, they haven't been completed. So they should be on the agenda for January.
Yes.
So this was, as I recall, that there were records missing from Scott, when Scott Stringer left and Gail Brewer took over?
Actually, they were able to
Were they able to find
provide
them ultimately?
most of the documents.
Yeah, I
Right.
find that strange. It just must have been misfiled.
And and the former employees were locatable, since many of them went to the controller's
It's
office.
office, yeah, so it's easy to find, right, yeah, I would assume that as well.
So we issued a final determination, we mailed a preliminary determination
Right.
for the Manhattan Borough President's Office. We have to allow them an opportunity to respond.
Right.
So,
Okay, so that's almost complete.
Yeah,
Right.
likewise for the cultural
Okay.
affairs.
and for cultural affairs.
All right.
All right, report on status of compliance monitoring.
Okay, so there are 2 agencies which have completed implementation of compliance. These are the Office of Collective Bargaining and only the Office of Collective Bargaining. Well, the Human Resources Administration, however, we will not be voting on that one today.
Okay, I move that we approve resolution 2014/313C 33, determination of compliance by the Office of Collective Bargaining.
Agreed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved.
Okay, there are 3 agencies that are currently being monitored for compliance. These are the New York City Council, the Office of Emergency Management, and the Department of Finance. With regard to the New York City Council, it submitted a final compliance monitoring report. However, it has not completed implementation of 3 corrective actions. It has created an employment practices review committee, which is reviewing those corrective actions. We believe that they are moving in the right direction, and that committee has a 90-day review period, and so we propose that rather than holding the city council in non-compliance, that we hold compliance open to see the results of their employment practices review committee on how they have made their efforts to implement those corrective actions.
I agree with that, but I think in this interim period, the commission, through the chair, ought to reach out to the city council president to indicate how strongly we feel about the changes, the corrective actions that we've asked, and hope that that would occur within the 90 days. So if everybody else agrees, I think that's what we should do, and
I
I agree.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So I think we should agree to hold it open and to make it very clear what actions we think the council ought to take.
Okay.
Okay.
And is there anything else? We don't need to do anything as to OEM or DOF?
No, the Office of Emergency Management is making its efforts to implement the corrective actions, as is the Department of Finance.
Terrific.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. So how is my software doing?
It's
He laying
doing,
software.
it's doing. There's been a lot of tweaking.
Tweaking and tweaking until
Right.
you get tweaked to, you don't want to hear the word anymore.
We've been doing a lot of tweaking. I think yesterday, Dewitt actually had to go in and, I don't know,
Did it
tweak
crash?
some other part of it.
Crash.
No, it's not crashing. I think a lot of it is mainly setting it up. And at one point, we did sort of a mock audits
Mm-hmm.
in-house, but somehow that information was still in the system when they tried to go to the staging part or another part of the software, and then the emails got sent out to the agencies.
Yeah.
We had to email the agencies and tell them, that was a
Disregard.
mistake, please disregard. But it's just a glimpse of what it will ultimately do when it's implemented. So, it's gonna take a lot of work on this end, but I think at the end, we'll have something that will be efficient and make the audit, a little better.
Well, it should reduce your data entry. I mean, ultimately, the amount of time you spend on data entry ought to happen automatically. They ought to fill, and so you're left with really review and reconciliation of whether or not they meet a standard and what the problems are.
Well-
It should do it faster for you.
I think what it's good for is tracking information, when an analyst sort of inputs a finding in there, it's good for tracking it and linking it to the documents and figuring out where did the finding come in and what document that pertained to, things like that. But we're doing user and training up until, I think, the end of next week. Was it the end of next week that I gave them? I think it's the end of next week, the 26th.
Yes, I think no, I think you said till the following week.
Or it might be the week of the 2nd. So there's we have to go in, we have to poke around, find out if there's flaws, all of those things. We have to keep playing in it and trying to figure out if it's gonna let us do the things that we needed to do. And then we give feedback to the vendor. So it's a process.
So you're months away from it being
I
implemented.
was just gonna ask.
I think it would probably be live by January or sometime around there.
Yeah, towards the end
Not
of
gonna
the,
that bad.
there's been, Sharice is downplaying, there has been so much meticulous work on Sharice and Alicia, really putting and matching, coordinating the standards, the procedures, the
The
expectations.
source data.
The source data, which then required, coordinating the source data for the various types of audits that we conduct, the comprehensive, the compliant,
It's a
the
lot.
complaint,
Wow,
the
sounds like a lot of
disability,
work.
the selection, the employment
Wow.
practices. There's been a lot of work on this, and before, now that we have the structure, we have the framework, and she's been filling it in. So the minute that she says she's done and does what they have to do, it's gonna be running. So So that's why she can say, yeah,
Is it going to help you look at promotions?
It's not, the software is not gonna do the analysis for the analyst.
But it'll give you the data to look at this type of stuff is what we're asking, I suppose.
Well, we have the data.
But in a more organized, efficient,
Right, I would say
Manner.
it organizes data. The thing that we don't have right now is sort of the management of the data and the organization
Right.
of the data.
but that's what this is
And
supposed,
so-
that's what I,
right.
yeah.
And so you still have to sort of do analysis in it or put your findings in it.
Oh, absolutely.
But
It's
then
not
you
gonna-
can pull reports.
No, but
Right.
I think that's her question, I may be wrong, but
No,
like,
my question was, you're looking at, you wanna find out whether or not there's a failure in promotion. And this will give you at least the ability of putting the data in, and you will find the gaps.
There are risk controls. So a risk that you can create is underutilization.
Right.
That would be a risk.
Mhm.
And then depending on, you would have to, at some point, when you find, you would have to put in, okay, this agency is identified as having underutilization for this or whatever. And you can pull by risk. The administrator can organize agencies by the risks. And it even has sort of a tool where the agency can have a green light or a yellow light or red light, you know, depending on the risk that you identify. But the criteria has to be put in, and then you have to fill in the information. And then ultimately you can run a report, but you have to put the information in. It's not just gonna take information and, and do something with it. So, the only way I can describe it, like, until I'm able to test it, the only way I can describe it is saying that it manages data. That's the best way that I can describe it. And that, well, in the management are things like risk. You know, you can use certain things to say, okay, give me all the agencies that have this problem. And then in the risk, you can say, you can put in discrimination complaints. That may be a criteria. for
Rather
risk.
than hand culling data
Right,
and counting pieces of paper, this does it in some sense automatically. Separate and apart from that, you're able to put into it the data that you've gotten elsewhere that talks about who's employed in what title and where. And so you have some gross data that's coming from the outside in that's in there. So you have a way of comparing against that. No?
I'm not sure exactly, gross that data like what, the workforce statistics you're
Yeah.
talking about? The workforce statistics, it's not a program where it's just gonna take numbers and pull them in. That we couldn't pay for. That was the part of that they would have to build a platform for, and it cost us a lot of money. But what it can do is, we can use it in conjunction with other programs, and we can put documents in it. It can store documents, and it can point to data. So if I had a finding, I can link my finding to where I got it from. So that when you look at that, if I run a report and you look at my report with my findings, you will know exactly where I got it from. So we already get the seeds data, so we can point to the seeds data. I don't know how else to explain it to you.
So it won't.
I can't give you a technical information,
No, I understand. I think I understand. Okay.
what I would say the most important thing is, we have about 50 standards, we stored the standards in there, there's a store where we store our standards, and then in the store also says what laws each standard comes from, and then what data collection tool, whether it be a survey, a questionnaire, that does the EPC use to satisfy whether or not an agency meets that standard. So those things are linked, whereas we're kind of doing it manually now. So it helps to, at the end of it, run reports saying, okay, let me have a report of all this agency's corrective actions. And so the corrective actions go into a different part of the program, and that's where it can contact the agency and say, these are the corrective actions for purposes of compliance. And then every month, it will send out a reminder, this is where you go with a link, these are your corrective actions, this is where you go. They click on the link, it brings them to the corrective actions, they can say how they've implemented it. So it's doing a lot of tracking of data and managing data.
It's a communication
Yeah.
device in some sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's many reports that it can run, but like I said, you have to put the data in it. It's not gonna,
Okay.
it's not gonna pull the data from somewhere.
It's not gonna-
You would have to put it.
You're gonna have to put the seeds data in.
So
it's
what
not
we're
gonna-
doing, what I'm doing is the standards, we have to set up a spreadsheet with all of the standards, all of the data collections tools that we use, whether or not it's number 5 or A on the document information request form, 5 on the supervisor questionnaire, 10 on the employee questionnaire. All of those things are stored so that when an analyst goes in, and this is especially good for new analysts, that information is right in front of them rather than someone having to say, okay, this is where you look to find out the answer for this thing. So it's automating everything that we do manually.
Mm-hmm.
Easier.
Yeah. The only thing is, it requires work up front. Because we have to customize it to exactly what we do, and nobody really understands exactly what we do.
Boy.
So the customization is really taking a lot of time and work, and there are certain things that I would
You have
like.
a misnomer.
Right,
You do not audit.
right, well,
You review.
right, right. And
That's
the
the
closest
misnomer.
thing is,
Mhm.
the closest thing to managing our work is audit management software, but really, it's a little bit different in our world
Yeah.
than, right,
No. What you really are doing is reviewing, you're not auditing.
right. So, hopefully, by the end of January,
February,
it'll be up,
Lincoln's birthday.
we'll see.
Okay.
But you guys will definitely get a demo when we get things together.
Well, January 29th is our next meeting, so hopefully that will happen that day. If not, we'll make it for the market meeting.
Give you enough
I'm
time?
being optimistic, just laughing, they're laughing, I'm just restating
I
what
know.
you stated.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you, Elaine.
I'm not doing anything other than that.
So that's it for the teammate stuff. It also forced us to re-examine the questions that we've asked and to update things and
Forced you to
to
look at your
organize.
processes
Right,
and procedures and to evaluate what's substantive and what's not.
right,
And what you can get rid of and what you
Right.
actually need.
right,
And that part's why it takes so much time
right.
when you're doing it. It's just, but it's probably a very good process. I am not gonna ask you the question until it's on board as to whether or not it was worth it.
Oh, we can already see that there are gonna be marked improvements. We can already see it. So.
I mean, the theory going into it, that it will be efficient with the collection of data and the analysis so that you will be able to free up the time from some of your analysts to do other things. That's the theory.
Well, the theory going into it is that it makes all of the processes and procedures uniform.
Right.
The other thing that it does is it automates the tracking of compliance of it actually does the compliance monitoring in terms of your report is due, it's
So
due in
that
7
frees
days,
up.
now it's overdue, please link, it links you, please click here to go to your corrective actions. That part is tremendous for us, because doing that manually, I mean, sometimes we'll say, whatever happened is such and such overdue. And then it was in this document, but somebody went in and updated it, and maybe they clicked on something and it deleted that date. Or, there's a lot of errors that happen when you try to do things manually.
Or corrective action.
So, right, so that part for us is already
Okay.
a big deal.
Do you want us to do anything with the proposed meeting and schedule day, or is that?
Just take it home and see whether or not everybody can make those dates in 2015.
Great.
I
Yeah.
think,
Do we have a date for the public hearing, or are we still in the same
No.
kind of thing?
yesterday, I checked the polls again. I distributed the polls to everyone, to the commissioners and to everyone in the office. And I got good feedback, okay, everything works properly. And I found an error. And it's not typos, the error that I found was that all the questions with the Likert scale, you can only click on one answer and it lets you go forward. Well, we want an answer for every row in the questioning. So a lot of it is making sure that we set it up so that it gives us information that we can use and people can't bypass some of the questions.
Christmas, forget it, we're not
So-
sending it out till January.
We're in SurveyMonkey and we're getting to know exactly how the questions, a lot of it just has to do with formatting and,
Got it,
yeah.
Fair enough.
January.
What's new business? Can I move on to new business?
I fixed what I saw, I fixed what I found yesterday, but I still want for someone else to
Okay,
test it.
okay, I'll play with it, I promise.
Okay.
Great.
Alright.
Thanks, Elaine.
Goodbye.
Good testing.
And once that's done, it's ready.
Okay, great.
January.
New business? No? What's new business?
I don't have any new business.
Can I move to adjourn?
Second? I approve.
I got all those in favor? Aye, all those opposed? So moved.